Alright guys, welcome to episode 2 of boosting a 640,000k HD100. In last episode, we installed a UniChip and she ran 170 horsepower and 500 Newton meters. We're going to be getting into the workshop and installing a G333 because we are completely out of turbo, and then get it onto the dyno, and Graham's going to run a bit about the setup to you, a bit about the turbo, the UniChip and the automatic as well. So let's get into the workshop and get started. Got the new G333 for the gasket kit. Woo! Look at that thing. Okay, so Ross just pulled off half the crossover and airbox intake and all the goods. It's pretty much now nearly ready to take the turbo off. He's just going to undo the dump and the oil lines and the water lines. With these high K engines, you do seem to find that they snap manifold bolts, which, as you can see over here, is we've snapped one, and you can see it's probably been cracked for a few years now, but it's pretty normal. There's a patrol over there with 3 of them snapped in the head, but Ross should be able to get it out, but that's not to worry. He's just going to rip the dump off now, and then should be able to pull the turbo out. And the turbo replacing the standard CT26 is the infamous G333 HD, which these turbos are pretty good for around that 300 horsepower mark. Most responsive turbo on the market for the FTEs. But Graham's going to explain a bit more about the turbo and the setup on the car later, but let's continue getting it in. I'm pulling off the air compressor, the AC air compressor, not because you have to, but because we snapped that bolt. It's going to make it a little bit easier because the stud's stuck in one of the front ports, exhaust ports, so I'm just ripping that off so it's easier for Ross to do. For people that haven't seen it or haven't extracted a stud before from a head, it's quite common for FTs, HZs, DTs, ZDs, TDs. Pretty much most of the straight sixes with the cast iron heads tend to snap after so many Ks from getting hot and cold. But what we do is we drill through the center as best we can, as you can see here, and then we put penetrant through it and try get it from both ends so it can come out easily. This one came out a lot easier than ones we had to do before, but yeah, then you just put a extractor on it and wind her out, and she came out pretty easy. All right, the G333 is installed onto the 100. It's time to get her onto the dyno, and Graham's going to explain a little bit about the turbo and give you some information of what's involved in the tuning. So let's get her on.
All right, guys, so we finally got the G333 onto our HDJ100. I don't know if you've seen the previous video, but in the previous video, we had a standard vehicle, 630,000 Ks. We ran it up, we fitted a UniChip and set the boost to about 1.4 bar, which is the safe maximum on the stock turbocharger. So here we are, just run it up without any changes in the tune whatsoever. We can notice a couple of things. One, we've got quite a bit of top end power increase. It's leaned off in the top end. We've got better boost control on response in the bottom end. and it allowed us to squeeze the accelerator a little bit more and load it up a little bit more off the bottom. And so as a result, the torque has increased off the bottom. We have a different wastegate arrangement and a different actuator set up in the GTurbo G333 than the factory one. So it's impossible to kind of get it exactly the same. If anything, we are marginally under the boost level that the factory turbo was set for. But despite that, we've got the same AFRs running through the mid. It leans off in the top, and the power just pulls away with the reduced back pressure that the G333 has over the factory turbo. So what we're going to do now is increase the boost up to what we feel is the limit on the factory plumbing with the factory intercooler, and that would be about 22, 23 PSI or 1.6 bar. Yeah, 1.6 bar. So I'm going to set it to 1.6 bar, drop the air fuel ratios back down again because it's going to lean off, because at the moment we are sitting on the limits of the chip, and let's see how we go. Okay guys, so we've just loaded the tune into the 100 series and run it up. It's running 1.6 bar now, and the air fuel ratios have dropped down back to around that 17.5 where we set them to. So I'm really excited to show you those results because they're really good. One of the things I thought I'd mention too is that one of the advantages of the G333 is not just its towing capability and boost response in the low end, but its outright flow and efficiency. And there's a lot of things that come together, turbine design, compressor design, and everything. But at the end of the day, you just care about the real world results. And the real world results are that the drive pressure is much lower than in the standard turbocharger. And that translates into better top end power and leaner with the same fuel settings. Now, the reason you get extra power is because when the cylinder is, or the piston, sorry, is going up on the exhaust stroke to push out that exhaust gas, the pressure head it's pushing against is lower. So in effect, the negative torque, you might say, from the piston scavenging the cylinder is less, and so you get less losses there. And the other advantage is, because the pressure head you're pushing against is lower, you scavenge more exhaust gas out. So it tends to lean off as well. And then of course you get better combustion and a little bit more efficiency. So a twofold increase there, better efficiency from the combustion and less power losses from pushing out that exhaust gas on the power stroke. Okay guys, so we've just finished the tune on the 100 series, putting the boost up to 1.6 bar and setting the AFRs down to 17 to 1, if we could get there, but we couldn't get there because the injector pump just proved to be all out. Now, we've seen this before, high kilometre 100 series, the injector pump just doesn't want to know about on the stock injectors. High flow injectors, plus 30s, do make it do a lot better. You might still get 300 horsepower out of it with the stock injectors. With the plus 30s, they just take the load off the pump, which is great. But you'll see here that the AFRs have now hit nearly 19 to 1 in the top end, up from the high 17s where they were. And the power's actually gone up a little bit, and that's just because of the efficiency of the turbo, the low drive pressures. But in the bottom end, we managed to go from about another 10% torque, really up from about 530 to about 580, which you can see here. We managed to get our 17.2 to 1 sort of target through there to match what we had before. But yeah, the injector pump kind of spoiled the party there. On the note of the turbocharger, I did mention the drive pressure before. We see this a lot, like if you're trying to push a turbocharger that is too small for the job, or if it's maybe big enough for the job but just very inefficient, as you try and turn that boost up, the drive pressure goes up so much that the power often just falls away. And you can clearly see here that even though we're winding the boost pressure up, this is with a stock airbox too, which is pretty poor flow, the power still goes up, which is one of the cool things about the G333. So anyway, now we're going to go and take it to the next level. We're going to fit a PDI front mount intercooler, a GTurbo airbox, and ADS plus 30 injectors to see how much the pump has in it. If the pump doesn't have what we need, we'll change the pump, do whatever we need before we go to the next level. So be sure to like and subscribe the video, and we'll see you in the next one.